who I spoke with shortly before that big reveal.
Stephen Miller, thanks for being with us here on The Hill. Appreciate the time. First time on the show, so thanks for being with us this Friday.
My pleasure. Hopefully the first of many times.
Yeah, hopefully the first of many. All right, so let's start with the state of the race, Stephen. Obviously, a lot's changed in the last week. National polling, New York Times poll has us basically a dead heat. Our polling at TheHill and Emerson College shows Trump and Harris in 5 of the key swing states, Donald Trump up 4. So with that as the backdrop here in the last week or so, I wonder how you view, Stephen, the state of the race right now and where you think things are.
Well, of course, in one sense, we're in uncharted territory because, to the best of my knowledge, it's never before happened in American history where, subsequent to a primary, a candidate has been forced out of the race by his own party and party donors, and then a new nominee was coronated without receiving a single vote. So in that sense, we just have to take a moment and just remember that we are in uncharted, completely new waters. As far as the polls that we're seeing right now, Trump continues to have a sizable lead in the battleground states, which of course is where our elections are decided, in the battleground states.
Right.
That has to be worrying for the Harris campaign because this is the best media week that she's ever going to get. In other words, the week in which she's coronated, in which the media support for her is at its zenith, in which the Democratic Party's support for her is at its zenith, in which as much of the propaganda machine behind that ticket is going to be churning into motion as they're ever going to get. They would have hoped, I would imagine, that they would get a significant bump during that first week, and they're simply not seeing it. I think a big part of that, to be candid with you, is that the American people are now relearning what they learned in 2020, which is that she has the most liberal record of any senator in all of Washington.
So let's talk about the policies here for a second, Stephen, and I know the border is of interest to you. Let me just go sort of 30,000 feet here of some of what's happened in the last few years or so. When President Biden came into office, for example, he halted construction of the border wall, terminated Remain in Mexico, and then ended Title 42. He then appointed Vice President Harris to address the root causes of migration from Central America. During the Biden administration, more than 6.7 million migrants arrested at the southwest border, significantly higher than the Trump administration. But in the last handful of months here, as we know, Stephen, Donald Trump basically ended the idea of a bipartisan border bill, and the administration now is touting the low encounter numbers. They say just 46,000 illegal migrants arrested in July. Here's part of how President Biden tried to frame it just the other day, and I'll get your reaction on the other side.
We're also securing our border. Border crossings are lower today than when the previous administration left office.
How are you going to try? How's the Trump campaign going to try to position this as it relates to Kamala Harris going forward?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. So let's start with the fact that the Biden-Harris administration and the Harris campaign have put all of their energy in this rollout to trying to distance herself from her title of border czar, from her record of being assigned the portfolio of running immigration policy for the Biden administration, and just trying to separate her, which of course is impossible because she was put in charge by Biden. We have the tape. The fact that they're trying to separate her from that record tells you everything you need to know, which is that they understand that it is arguably the single greatest liability for the Biden-Harris administration and the Harris campaign. The 3.5-year long-running immigrant catastrophe, illegal immigrant catastrophe on the southern border. Let's dive into the numbers for a second, though, since you raised those, and I'm happy to be.
And I got about a minute with you here, so dive into it real quick.
This June, the CBP encounter numbers are quadruple the CBP encounter numbers from June 2020, four-fold. June to June. You have to use the CBP encounter numbers because all of the illegal aliens that are being flown into the country and all the ones that are being pushed through the ports, through the CBP One phone app are not counted in Border Patrol statistics. They're only counted, and that's about 3,000 a day on top of the Border Patrol numbers. They're only counted in CBP enforcement statistics. Quadruple, over 200,000 CBP encounters in the month of June. Just astounding, mind-blowing, really.
Thank you for watching, and make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.